Hey everybody, William Wallace here. And as you know, my mission is to introduce the public and get people more involved with not only nonprofits and small businesses and places to see, but also with elected officials and people that are holding public jobs in our communities that are doing the work for people in our communities. Today, I'm with Cade Brumley, who's the superintendent of Jefferson Parish Schools, and I'd like to get you a chance to not only meet him, find out what's going on in Jefferson Parish Schools, find out more about his job, and again, help motivate people to be more involved. Cade, thank you very much for coming in today.
Yeah,
appreciate you. Well, you know, a lot of people don't know you, or people that are in our circles know you, but a lot of people don't know who you are, what you do, and so that's our purpose today. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, where are you from?
Yeah, not from around here.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I'm a North Louisiana guy.
Okay.
Louisiana my whole entire life. What's funny being in the New Orleans region is people say, "Oh, you're from out of state." And I'm like, "No, I lived in Shreveport."
Yeah.
So it's funny, but so I've been in Louisiana my entire life. Been in Jefferson for the last basically 2 years doing the work here. It's the most important work in the state of Louisiana.
I agree.
This is the largest school system in the state of Louisiana with almost 51,000 kids, and I'm just so super impressed with the work that our team is doing and the leaders and teachers in the schools to help get better outcomes for kids.
Well, it's things like this job and your job is one of the more important in our parish. I mean, we could say the elected officials and the council, but you're catching people before they get to adulthood. You know, you're helping educate our youth and creating an environment that will not only help our parish, but be able to, have a generation to them be here, passing that information on. So it's real important.
Well, education is fundamental to our democracy, and
exactly,
it should not just sustain our democracy, but it should improve our democracy. And I see that as our role, because a democracy can come and go, and we shouldn't take that for granted. And so we have to make sure that we're doing our work so that it is not only sustained but improved.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, it's funny because when you talk about being from Shreveport, a lot of people say you're not from here. There was that old picture a long time ago that showed, it had a picture of the lake, and it showed Covington and Mandeville, and then it showed the Canadian border above that. You know, a lot of people down from this area, we only think of anything above Mandeville or Shreveport, but Shreveport's in the state too.
Truly, I grew up on Toledo Bend bass fishing.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of home for me.
That's one of my stops that people see here on the channel is going to Toledo Bend and getting a good view of that up there. Well, what's your background? Because I'm going to preempt that with this, is every time I mention Cade to somebody else, they always say you're a smart guy. Well, what is your background?
I think I hire smart people.
Okay.
Maybe that's what makes me have some degree of wisdom. It's not because I'm smart, but no, I mean, in the first grade, I knew that I wanted to be an educator, and I told my teacher that. And from that point forward, that's basically what I had given my life to do. And so in terms of professionally, I've served everything from a substitute teacher to a bus driver to a coach to assistant principal, teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, and have served as superintendent in North Louisiana and then South Louisiana for about 8 years now.
Oh, wow. You look too young for all that.
Hey, I'm a papaw in superintendent life.
I like this. You've even driven them to school with the bus. I like that.
I can pull out my CDL license right now. We can go hop on the bus and we can complete this interview on the bus.
I like that. So what is it? Tell us about the job of a superintendent. You know, what is your job, and then also how does that relate to the the elected school board members? How do you relate, and what's your job?
So I'm not a politician.
Okay.
I am an appointed position.
Okay.
So I'm appointed by the Jefferson Parish School Board. Was offered a contract roughly 2 years ago. Was offered an extension last year, and I'm just happy to be in this position. Happy to serve. The job of the superintendent is to make sure that kids get what they need so that they can be successful in life. I understand the dynamic between the workforce and the school system. I understand the dynamic between the family and the school system. And so what we're trying to do every day is to make sure that the kids get what they deserve so that they can be successful in life. And we made a promise that we would flip trajectory in the school system. Jefferson Parish School System had not seen a performance increase from the state of Louisiana in 4 years. And this last year, when the state provided district performance scores, Jefferson Parish saw its first increase in 4 years. And so this parish is large. If there could be a complexity, we have it in Jefferson Parish.
Yeah.
But we're doing solid work to make that happen for kids.
I like that. So not only are you a teacher and a bus driver, and I want to talk about it, kind of connect everything. You're also the CEO of basically. You kind of overlook everything, and you kind of hire the right people and put them in place.
Yeah.
So people say you're smart. You're just hiring really good people.
Yeah. So our budget is $500 million. I mean, we're a $500 million operation. We employ nearly 7,000 individuals. I think we're the second largest employer in Jefferson Parish Schools. And if you look at our expenses per student, we spend less per student than most every parish around us. So, we are doing a lot, and our budget is significant.
Yeah.
But we have 51,000 kids and 7,000 employees. So naturally, that we do spend a significant amount of money, and we have a tremendous impact on the local economy.
How do we do compared to the states per student?
I think you would have to make. I mean, it's different state to state,
Yeah.
right? So
different states have different setups,
right,
and different populations,
and different ways of collecting revenue.
Yeah.
So in Louisiana, the three main ways that schools are funded would be property tax, sales tax, local, state dollars, and federal dollars that come into the system.
Right.
And so what we have tried to do is to take the money that we have, leverage that to get better outcomes for kids. And so we've really narrowed our focus, and we've said these are the things that we think are most important. And we're putting our dollars to those things, and we're seeing better results. So for instance, career and technical education. I think for so long, we've diminished the value of vocational education.
Oh, gosh.
We've told people that if you don't go to college, you're a lesser than person.
Right.
And that's just totally not true. And so this year alone, we've seen a 62% increase in students earning credentials in career and technical education.
I love that.
So that might be HVAC, that might be car mechanics, that might be emergency medical technician, just business operations, so many things that we just know that we have to elevate career and technical education in this state and in this region, and we're trying to do that.
I'm a firm believer in the VOTEC system like that, and VOTEC got a bad name a long time ago, like you said, when they started pushing that college degree, but I've always said that, the TOPS program, always takes a hit, when it comes to getting funding, but nobody talks about the VOTEC schools that took a hit a long time ago. I'm glad you're addressing that because, those are good careers. Those are good opportunities for a lot of people. Many people just don't want, they're worried about getting it. We have to educate our kids through high school, but beyond that, we have to make them feel, like you said, feel important with those jobs, because those are necessary to our communities.
Right.
And that I like that. So how do you work with the school board exactly?
So the school board's function is a little different than it would have been 10 or 20 years ago. Legislation has passed that focused the work of the school board. So the school board now, they're responsible for appointing, evaluating, retaining, or removing the superintendent.
Okay.
I am their only employee.
Oh wow, okay.
The next thing is they adopt a budget, they pass a budget, and they adopt policies, rules, and regulations. And really, those are the three functions of the school board member. 20 years ago or 10 years ago, a school board member was out hiring principals and janitors and cafeteria workers. But that's not the case anymore. Like, the only employee of the school board is me.
So what I like is that they're elected, so they actually have to answer to their constituents, their voters, and then if you're not doing a good job, they're going to hear from those people. And then if you're not making their constituents happy, they're you're not making them happy.
And look, we have a new school board that came in last year, and I think they're a really strong group of individuals.
Yeah.
I think they're professional. I think they're thoughtful. I think they're student centered, and they're very cognizant too of like the taxpayer dollar. So for instance, right now we're going through a process, and we're actually reducing some of our expenditures by about $16 million. And in order to do that, we're proposing some consolidations, some mergers, And by doing that, we have some of our buildings that are only 30-40% occupied with children.
Right.
And our average building is 55 years old, and so that's average. So that we have many that are much older than that, and so those are expensive to upkeep. So what we're trying to do is reduce the number of buildings that we have, especially where we can have mergers of schools together.
Right.
And that allows us to provide more services in those schools. So,
Right.
for instance, this plan that will reduce $16 million that we put forward, while it does further right-size the system to our buildings, to our kids,
Right.
we're going to be able to provide social worker full-time at each school, which we haven't been able to do before.
Right.
We're going to be able to update technology, which we haven't been able to do in a long time. And so I think that this board gets the fact that that we have to take the resources that our public have entrusted us with and use them wisely, and use them to get better outcomes for kids, and that's what we're trying to do.
I like that. So for people that would not be happy about the a school that they might have gone to that might be getting closed or consolidated, they can rest assured that if they have children or grandchildren that are going through the school system, that they're going to get a better education as a result, get more attention as a result, get better resources as a result of what you're doing in consolidating.
So last year we closed 3 schools.
Okay.
This year we have a proposal to close 4 more schools.
Mm-hmm.
But these are schools that may have 200 children in them, or 300. And in the 1960s they had 700-800 children.
Oh,
in
wow.
them. And so these buildings are the same. They're old. There are schools that are a mile, 2 miles, a half a mile apart, where we can merge together, push more resources into those sites, and go all in on making those buildings better.
Does the school board own these buildings, I guess?
Well, the public owns them, managed through the school system, and we're just trying to do better with the resources we have, and realizing that anytime you talk about a school closure, it's emotional. Well, that's where I went to first grade.
Right.
Well, that was 50 years ago.
Right.
But that's where you went to first grade.
Hey, maybe 30 years ago.
and it's emotional, and we get that. But everywhere, basically, where we're suggesting that we do a closure consolidation, kids are going to be going to a school with the same letter grade
Right.
for performance, or in most cases a higher performance.
Okay.
Another thing we're doing that hasn't really happened in Jefferson is we're introducing more school choice. So one of the biggest things that we're talking about doing for next year, if the board approves this plan, is that any 8th grader in the spring of their 8th grade year, they're going to be able to select the Jefferson Parish High School of their choice.
Oh, wow.
Regardless of where they live. So they would not be bound to a certain school because they live in a certain attendance zone or zip code.
Right.
We're going to encourage healthy competition among our high schools, which we think if we introduce that competition,
Right.
things just get better.
Absolutely.
Because people are competing for their kids. And so if the board agrees with our plan, hopefully for next year, going into next year, 8th graders will be able to choose their high school.
What an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I've always believed in competition. I think competition is one of the best things that people can do to not improve any environment.
Right.
Basis. So what do you think are the top 3 things that will help improve our school system, our educational system in not only Jefferson Parish, but in Louisiana? Even though I know your focus is on Jefferson Parish, we got to prepare our kids, for our state.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 things that we could do to help education?
I have consistently said that the greatest educational challenge we face is early childhood education. And I think we're at a place now where everyone kind of agrees with that.
Right.
Birth to 3, birth to 4, so much of the brain develops before a child comes to school.
Right.
The question then becomes, how do we pay for that? Everyone kind of agrees that's a good thing, but how do you pay for that? But here's why it's important. So
you pay for it by consolidating some schools. You can get some money in there.
Over half of our children come to us in kindergarten, and they're not considered kindergarten ready. That means they can't count to 10. They don't know green from red. In many instances, they don't know their own real name. They only know a nickname.
Right.
In some of our communities, that is 90% or higher, where kids are coming to us not kindergarten ready. And so the school system goes into catch-up mode on day 1.
Wow.
And so we catch up more by 3rd grade. We catch up more by 8th grade. But we're behind from the start. And so we think that the greater the investment in early childhood education, the more successful we'll be down the road, and it really has the opportunity to transform the region and the state.
It also helps working families too. Helps parents, because if they've got a school, a public school that's not only, a place where they can bring their children before, kindergarten, and they're getting educated, we're better as a community as a result.
I think too, just a check on, public being a check on the school system. Are you using the money correctly? Do you have a plan for what you're trying to do? Right. And so people can say a lot of stuff about me and us, but one thing that they cannot say is we don't have a plan.
Yeah.
We're trying to put the dollars where we think we're going to see the biggest impact for greater outcomes for kids. And like I said, basically everything that we're measuring, whether it's graduation rates, school performance, mastery rates, career and technical education, college credits earned, all of those things are going up in Jefferson Parish right now. And I think it's because we're focusing our resource to those places where we're pushing. So I think the public just being a check on that. The other thing I think that's important for people to realize, we have students about 40 hours a week. They go into the community for 128 hours a week. So 168 hours a week, we only have them for 40.
Right.
And so I think that more that individuals can invest in mentoring programs after school, programs like Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, faith-based organizations that have after-school programming, that helps. Because so many of our students come from homes or situations that are disorganized, and there's a lack of supervision. And so wherever we can provide guidance and mentoring and support for kids between 3 o'clock and 6 or 7 o'clock, it really goes a long way. And so for some individuals in your audience, that might be saying, hey, I'm going to start contributing to an after-school program that is reputable. For some people, it might be saying, hey, I'm going to go show up at the Y or the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to give you 5 hours a week.
Right.
So I think engagement between 3 o'clock and say 7 or 8 o'clock is really important for our kids.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, is to be able to let people know about resources. And when some people just don't have the opportunity to see what things are available to them, to improve. So one last question for you. I saw you at your speech at the State of the Parish luncheon a while back, and I was really impressed with a lot of the statistics. So I'm going to ask you about those, because I want to ask you to point to some of the statistics that you've got coming out. I know you've got some things to say about that, but also let the public know how they can follow up in a way. Is there a Facebook page for this for the parish? Is there a website? Is there a place where they can go to see some of these same statistics?
Yeah. Well, we are probably the most diverse school system in Louisiana.
Right.
So we are the largest school system in Louisiana. I mentioned earlier, we're 51,000 kids. We grew by 2,000 kids this year alone. We're the 98th largest school system in America. Our students are 83% economically disadvantaged. That means that basically 8 out of 10 of our kids are living in a home that's earning $25,000 a year or less.
Oh, wow.
Close to that.
That's pretty high for the, you would think. But
we are 39% African American, 31% Hispanic, 24% Caucasian, and then other, which includes a host of other nationalities. Our kids speak 49 different languages every day in the school system. Last year we had 2,000 newcomers to the country. This year we've had roughly 1,500 this school year, primarily from Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico. And so the thing about us is, no matter who shows up at our door, at the schoolhouse gate, we're going to educate kids. And we're going to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable in our schools. And any decisions that have to be made politically, they need to be made outside the schoolhouse gate.
Exactly.
But
that's not your job. Your job is to abide by the laws that are on the books and educate children. And as an educator, I'm sure you feel that responsibility anyhow.
Yeah, and our diversity is part of the beauty of our system. We have some of our high schools that are basically international high schools. You can go in the high school and you're going to hear 6, 7, 8 different primary languages.
Wow.
And the thing is, we have to be ready for all of that. Jefferson Parish Public Schools is, like I mentioned, just very complex. You have so many different interests, from business to union to every religion to every race to every political philosophy. And so economics. But the one thing that we are focused on is the kid. And that's the common denominator for us, and that's where we're putting our focus, and frankly that's where we're getting results.
Any of those statistics that you can point to right now?
Well,
or do you want to point to, or do you want to point to your website where they
yeah,
will see?
I think that you can go to our website, jpschools.org.
Okay.
You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
Okay.
some of those social media outlets. We're there.
And what I'll do is some of those statistics I'll put on my Facebook page along with this video, so people can, you know, see some of the things we're referring to.
And I think that's important, because if they can follow us on places like Facebook, they're going to have a better sense of what's going on. There are wonderful things happening every single day in Jefferson Public Schools. And sometimes some outlets just choose to focus on negative things that happens. But God, there's just so many great things that happen every day. And over the last 2 years, just the improvements that I've seen as a professional educator and that I notice are amazing. And so I'm so proud of the work that's happening in Jefferson Parish Schools, and we've got a long way to go, but we're on the right track.
One of the things that, before I let you have the final word, one of the things I want to point out is safety. You know, point to my little badge here. You know, I haven't been to a school building in a while, you know, and when you go there and you gotta take a picture of yourself at the front door and present your driver's license, you know, I felt very safe and secure knowing that you're taking that much time. You know, I think you said the same thing's going on in the schools too, for security purposes.
Well, we've put in a number of safety measures, and a lot of those we don't talk about because we don't want people to know what they are, because then they can break them down.
Okay.
But no, it's good. So you do have to show ID to enter a building.
Yeah.
We have increased our school resource officer, our police officer presence throughout our schools, working with local law enforcement agencies as a deterrent. But also, we're trying to increase behavioral and mental health supports in our schools, because we do have a mental health crisis, and we're trying to work through that. And so many of our kids have gone through trauma, trying to get kids to build relationships with teachers and adults so that they want to talk about things if they know something's going on. But safety is our top responsibility.
Any final words? Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I think just be informed. Like, follow us, know what's going on, reach out to us if you have questions. And know that we have a plan. We're trying to put our dollars behind that plan. We're trying to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars correctly. But, you know, we know that outcomes have to improve, and they are.
I love it. Well, everybody, I want you to share the video as much as you possibly can. Stay tuned here in William Wallace for Louisiana. What I'm going to do is I'll be posting some of those statistics that we've been referring to. I'll post a website and Facebook pages so you can stay informed. I think it's one of the best things that we can do, become engaged. And even if you don't have kids, be more engaged in the school system, because as we pointed out today, you know, it affects our economic system here locally. Cade, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it. Everybody else, please share the video with as many people as you can. Thank you so much for watching.